River Thoughts takes on a slightly different hue this time. There's three of us here. You might be able to see that depending on which way Peter is pointing the camera in this scenario. So we have Peter and James. It ought to be John here, just to make a biblical trio, but unfortunately my name's Duncan, so it doesn't quite work. But we're going to do a biographical one again. Peter and I have already done one that we think we're going to put out. It may already have gone out by the time you watch this.
Yeah.
And we just thought we would find out a bit about James, who's been in on at least one of these already, depending on, again, when this goes out. And because he's got such a fascinating life that he's led. And my belief is that everybody's got a fascinating life. And we don't hear the life stories enough. I mean, there's quite a lot of people who like reading biographies in newspapers and obituaries and so on, because people's lives are just fascinating, because no two lives are the same. And so we thought, as part of River Thoughts, and we haven't given it a name yet as we film this, by the time it goes out we hopefully have some sort of add-on to River Thoughts, which is almost a stream of consciousness about somebody's life, if you want a bit of an analogy to rivers here. And so we're going to do this one on James, and Peter and I are going to just chip in with anything we think of to ask James about his life so far, because it's not really that far on. But he gave us, in it when we did the first one with James, you gave us a two minute quick summary of you.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's unpack a few of those things, at least a little bit. But maybe we should start from scratch. Where originally were you born?
So I was born in the Luton and Dunstable Hospital. Yeah.
Kent. Oh, Luton. You said
Luton and Dunstable Hospital. Yeah.
Okay.
The L&D.
Okay, and if I've got it right, you're from a bit of a what you might call an itinerant background, in that your dad moved around a bit.
So yeah.
So you probably moved around a bit. Tell us a bit more about early life.
So early life, till I was about 15, I lived in a tiny little village called Dagnall, which my family had lived in for generations. I was the fourth generation of my family to go to the primary school.
Oh, right.
And
I didn't realise you were that long in the first place.
Yeah. And I was given the honour of being part of the team that opened the brand new school toilets that were integrated into the school building rather than being outside. As a result of the fact that, I was the fourth generation to go there.
Yeah, right. And I asked this next one because in a way it might, I imagine it could trigger thoughts in Peter, because I know a bit about Peter's life. How was early life? School, primary school, secondary school? What kind of existence was it for James?
2 out of 10 would not recommend.
Any of it?
Well, no. So at home it was quite nice. My parents are all right. They're good people. They looked after me. I was surrounded by plants. I was surrounded by nature. My whole family was in the village. So Christmas, New Year, big parties, all the family, doing things like playing indoor cricket and, all sorts of fun, terrifying.
So that part was good. But if it's only 2 out of 10...
Yeah, then I went to school, and school was terrible.
Because?
So, at the time we didn't know that I was autistic, but we knew that I was dyspraxic, and then we later found out that I'm dyslexic through my sort of school time.
Could you just add what a dyspraxic and dyslexic mean?
Yeah.
So dyspraxic was my first diagnosis, and that was to do with me not having great hand-eye coordination. So things like handwriting were very difficult.
Catching a ball or hitting a ball with a racket or something?
Hitting a ball with a racket. All of those things were hard.
Yeah.
And teachers back then did not like that fact. They were not fans of not being able to do perfect handwriting. So that was torturous. And, I missed so many lunch times because of teachers pretending they couldn't read what I'd written. And I was dyslexic, so I could read what I was written, and I was worse at reading than them. So, And then the dyslexia, the way that impacts me was mostly in terms of reading things quickly. So I can read stuff and I can, like, you know, put words together really well. I love poetry, all of that, but I was slow at it. So when teachers would write something on the board and then give you half a second to write it down before they'd rubbed it out, that was a real struggle.
You relate to that, did you?
Oh yeah, when I was 25 at college, I was like keeping everyone for a couple minutes while I write everything down. Yeah.
Wait, you weren't 25 at college, were you?
At Cornwall College.
Were you? Were you still only 3 years ago?
Yeah, I was writing down from 23 to 26, but this is about James. So
no, it is, but we're relating.
Oh, okay.
We're
shared experiences.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Brilliant. Go on, James.
Well, no, like, and that was
so that was primary. Was that primary school you're talking
primary school into middle school and on into secondary. Like, as you go up through the school, the level of violence increases as well.
Okay.
So, like, by the time I got to secondary school, you know,
was bullying a problem?
Bullying was a huge problem. Mostly because I was an undiagnosed autistic kid that didn't really understand fully the nuances of all the social interactions that were going on. I didn't know how to, like, communicate with people well and, you know, connect with people in the way that everyone else did. And I didn't know I was autistic at the time, which...
But given what we're now doing, what a change.
Yeah, I know, right? I think there's a big difference between learning how to communicate and learning how to navigate certain social interactions.
So, and I imagine this could be, there could be some similarities here, and I think I do want to do a little bit. Reason we're doing a three-way thing, and Peter's going to ask things, but actually, I think there could be a little bit of, to some extent, shared experience here. But I mean, how did you grow in, or learn how to cope with, or what process happened to enable you to be, in a sense, relating better to people and them relating better to you? Does that make sense? Am I going in the right lines there?
I don't know. Like my answer to the question is I don't know. It's just sort of happened over time that as I've discovered that I'm autistic, as I've discovered the things that I like and enjoy, those things have then made it easier as ways in to having conversations with other people.
Yeah.
So one of the things I'm going to go into a bit of a theory thing here. One of the things they talk about with autistic kids is that they show no interest in anything outside of their special interest. That's one of the things they say. You know, I had a really good friend when I was at school called Thomas. He's never spoken a sentence to me ever. He was one of my favourite people. He just sat and played with trains all day, every day. And I thought he was great. I thought he was like one of the best people because he would just sit beside me. I'd do my thing, he'd do his. It was great. But the teachers had real trouble. They were trying to get him to do maths and get him to do this, you know. And my mum child-minded him, so he came home to ours and he'd just sit with the trains and do that thing. And all the teachers at school were trying to get him to go through the classes and that. But what they never did was they never did their maths lesson or their English lesson based on trains and based on learning about trains or learning about the ratio of coal to water to make a steam train move forward.
In other words, relate the interest to learning something else.
Exactly. So I kind of have that approach to communication in that I have learned to communicate through the things that I love doing and through the things that I enjoy being around.
Yeah. Is that the same for you, Peter?
Don't think so.
No, so not at all. So not experience. I mean, James has just shared there something about as you sort of get to know. I mean, I was thinking of the pub experience for you,
Yeah.
and getting to know people enabled you to actually show that you were interested in a whole host of things. It wasn't a tunnel vision. I'm just a computer bod.
Okay.
I mean, the things you come out with, and James the same. The varied, you can't pigeonhole you. Can we, James? You can't put you in a box and say you're a poet or you're an artist or you're a. I don't know. How did school miss things there with you?
That's a very complex question, because I think school was designed to miss those things. And the school system was designed not to see those things.
Okay.
And not to see the difference as an advantage, and to not see the struggle as actually also being potential. That there's not room within the school system in the United Kingdom for people who do not think in the ways that the top 5 kids in every class think. So there's 5 kids in every class of 30 who think in the exact way that school is designed to teach, and they have a real good time. Right? They get good grades, they enjoy themselves, they excel, they thrive. Everyone else whose brains work differently struggles in some way, shape or form to varying degrees. And school is just not for them. Like, part of what teachers try to do is they try and get the average in the middle of the class, to be higher than lower, so that they can, keep getting enough money from the government to make the school run.
Yeah.
And anyone who doesn't function in learning in the exact ways that teachers are trained to teach is going to have a bad time. And
Okay,
struggle.
let's just pinch that for a minute there.
Yeah.
Because I think we could have a whole discussion about education
Yeah, we
systems,
could.
and
Yeah.
I would love to, actually, because
Yeah.
I've heard your experience in school to some extent. It's in your book.
Yeah.
But I think that is almost such a huge topic. So let's move on a little bit. How did you evolve, James, from the education system that was put on you to, well, tell us how you got where you are now. What happened first in the situation of, I mean, you said in your brief intro about the whole idea of your mental health and about all the things that you actually loved doing and did.
Yeah.
But what was the kind of what was the progression as the education system finished? How did that start? What happened then?
I just about made it through secondary school and college and did those things, and sort of just survived them on autopilot. I did okay at college.
So what did you do at college?
Illustration.
Okay.
And so I got to the end of that, and then I applied to university. And at university I had to do an extra year at the beginning as like a introductory year that other people didn't have to do, but it was like a kind of soft intro to the topics, because I didn't quite get high enough grades to go straight onto the course.
Was that hard?
It was okay. It was fine. I found university difficult overall, mainly because of balancing the social expectations with the work expectations. And throughout my university, I had 2 mental breakdowns at university and one after. And by mental breakdown, I mean,
Yeah, I was going to say, what does that mean?
actual mental breakdown, everything from the mental symptoms to the physical symptoms of, all that means. I had varying levels of psychosis through that time. I had a lot of paranoia, so I didn't trust anyone.
Really?
I was always looking over my shoulder. And I was always worried about who was plotting this and who was plotting that. And these were all lovely people I was talking about who weren't plotting nothing.
No, it was
Right.
just the way you perceived it.
Yeah.
Me and James have this in common.
Right. So did you find that as well? A certain level of paranoia?
Not the details, but I've had psychosis 4 times and been hospitalised 3 times.
Yeah, right. So were you hospitalised with yours?
No, an immense amount of white male privilege came into play, and so things that would have got my female friends hospitalised, I did, but didn't get hospitalised because...
Was that good or bad that you didn't?
I don't know. I probably should have been hospitalised a couple of times, mainly because of my levels of paranoia were causing problems for other people, and that should have been put a stop to. But also, I wasn't, and I was able to recover at home. In a way, I left uni for 8 months at one point during my course, and almost did the hospital thing, but I was at home with my parents. And sort of did it that way instead of having a...
Because I would say in this country the system is terrible during a crisis.
Yes.
Okay.
They're very slow.
Yeah.
So you can't just get seen by the right people. For some reason, it's like going to the hospital with a heart attack and they've got a 2-day waiting period before they intervene.
Right.
But that's what it's like with mental health.
Right.
So for me to get hospitalised, I actually had to get arrested, put into custody or whatever you call it, and then they find a place for you. Like, the system is not good for people that need it.
Right. Is that still true?
I'd say it's still true.
100%. I've got friends who...
How does it feel? I mean, as someone who hasn't been through this, like you in your different ways have, I mean, is it good to share all that you've shared? I mean, I imagine it is, but I wonder if you would have been wanting to share it a while back. And obviously, for people who are struggling now, they're going to be really helped, I'm sure, by hearing these stories.
It's not a conscious choice I make to share it, but it's just difficult to avoid because you just try and tell somebody, ask you about your life, you tell them what's happened.
Yeah, okay.
And you've done it enough times that it's fine.
But is it okay? It's fine, or are you just saying it's fine because people ask you?
Well, the psychosis isn't fine when it's happening.
No.
But many years later, for me, it's like saying I had a bad health thing, and it's a little bit more taboo. So you don't go around telling everyone.
No.
But
it's certainly becoming a more open discussion, isn't it? These issues in the society we now live in.
It's also really useful to talk about it and read people's response to it, because you very quickly learn who's for you in life and who ain't.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
but that might change as well, of course, as people's education on these things and lack of ignorance, as they grow in their knowledge rather than ignorance.
Yeah.
Hopefully it helps.
Yeah.
So you went to university. You were off for a while, and it was a bit disjointed, to say the least.
Yeah.
So you got through it in the end?
Eventually, yeah. I mean, I had my breakdowns. I got my diagnosis, which is bipolar affective disorder, which type 2, which means that I have very, very long depression periods and then very, very short manic periods. And a depression period can look like a depression period. A lot of people sort of are familiar with how depression can look, the self-loathing but lethargy and not being able to engage with the world, all of that sort of thing. And then the manics can be suddenly my bank account's empty, I've texted everyone in my phone something terrible, and I've signed up to do 20 things at 10 o'clock on one day, and I've committed to every single one of them.
Right.
That's sort of an exaggeration, but
can you predict when you have these types of depression or manic behaviour?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes there are like early warning signs, but you have to go through the slow and tedious and disappointing process of learning that over years and years and years. it's you only learn the path by walking, right? It's
I'd say it's similar to a frog in boiled water, and it doesn't. You put the frog in. If you put a frog in hot boiling water, then it will jump out. But if you put it in cold water and let the temperature raise, it will die in the water because it doesn't notice the change. So it's like that with psychosis for me. You don't know it's happening until it's too far gone that you're already in hospital.
I see.
Is it because it's very? You might think you'd be able to recognise it, but because it's mental, you can't see outside from another perspective while it's happening. From my experience.
No, I think that's very much it. Especially in the early days, that was my experience. Like I had no idea about any kind of early warning. I had no idea what was going on. All I knew was that at some point I would notice that I was on a manic and have no idea when it started. I'd be like, oh, I'm here. Like, what's going on? When did this happen? I knew it had been probably a couple of days, but I hadn't noticed it. And then you kind of have to deal with whatever has happened, you know.
So what happened then? You got through university, but what's happened in life? I mean, obviously, there's quite... how many years ago was that? Quite a few, I imagine.
Yeah.
So what's happened in the meantime? Give us a little bit of a synopsis of life since then.
So, uni, other stuff happened, sort of certain traumatic things happened. That's how I sort of developed the complex PTSD. There were some things that went on that should never have, you know, gone on, and it was horrible. And yeah, that sort of was a big factor in the next bit in terms of I finished uni. With my whole family, we moved to just outside Swindon, and that was kind of when things started to rebuild at that point.
Because you talked positive about Swindon in previous our previous discussion.
I had a very good time there. Very very good.
So what happened that helped?
I was given time. So I was signed off work permanently, and I'm still signed off permanently. It's probably not permanent, you know. Hopefully one day eventually I'll get there, but I'm signed off of work. And that was, you know, a big relief, because I don't think I could have healed and been working at the same time. It would have exacerbated all the problems of what I'd been through, you know, without saying too much. I'd been at a job as well that was that violence was a feature in, and you know, all sorts of things. And so I was signed off. I spent a couple of years just sort of doing nothing, not really having a clue what I was.
So how did the poetry, art, radio programs, etc. How has all that happened, James?
So, around the sort of second year of us being in Swindon, I went to a cafe called Darkroom Espresso. It still exists in Swindon. Everyone should go there if they're ever in the area. It's now run by a guy that I call Saint Stephen. He's great. He was just a barista there when I first started going, and he's just a really nice person. But I particularly got to know the previous owner, who was the owner when I first started going, called Will, who is also a very, very good person. He runs a place in Cardiff now, which is great. But I got to know them, a couple of other staff members, and a couple of their friends, because I just started going to the cafe every couple of days because I wanted to get out of the house.
So it was your community?
It became my community, yeah. And at around the same time as that, I'd sort of had a more recent sort of like post-uni crash out a little bit, and I'd been put in touch with the mental health charity Mind, and they just so happened to have been given a laptop by Kylie Minogue to run a radio station off of, an online radio station.
So how long ago are we talking about for this? Just to get this in perspective.
We're talking, I'm not very good at like times, but I'm going to say...
Don't worry if you don't.
It was about 7 years ago.
Okay, before COVID.
No, it must have been... No, it must be over 10 years ago, because it's been 11 years since
gives me an idea.
I Didn't Die Day. It's probably 12 years this year. So, yeah, probably about 8-9 years ago.
Okay. So what happens with that? For people who don't have any idea what this is about.
So what was happening with that was that a whole bunch of mentally ill people were getting into a room and making radio shows. So we did all sorts of various things. We recorded plays, Orpheus and Eurydice, and was the one play that we were doing. Very, very highbrow, but with proper old school original, hung out with the Sex Pistols punk guy being Cerberus the dog, all three heads, absolutely smashing it. He was great. And all sorts of like different people doing different things. They also started to let me do a 2-hour show myself and start to put that together. Then that project lost its funding, but another charity, who are now known as Ipsum in Swindon, took it on and turned it into just a 2-hour radio show on the local community radio station.
Okay.
And that was when it really started to enter its sort of the element that it's still in now.
So are you still involved with that?
I'm not now, but that's kind of when we started to have some real fun with it and do things like interviewing people from the community, interviewing each other, as mentally ill people who'd lived lives, and we'd chat. And
so what happens now then? Because you said you're still doing them. So who are you doing? What's your radio thing now?
So since then, since I moved to Cornwall, when I moved to Cornwall, I had to stop doing that, stop doing their stuff, because I was no longer in the location where the studio was, right? So I couldn't go. And I didn't do radio for a little while, and then I saw that this online station was starting brand new and was looking for presenters. And so I dug out some old gear that I had, and I started to do my own radio shows through that online radio station. And then after a couple of years doing that, I saw that one of the radio stations that I loved since I was like really quite young was also looking for presenters and hosts and DJs to do shows there. And so I applied to Sub FM, which is the radio station I'm now on, and they gave me a show 10 a.m. till 12 noon every single Tuesday UK time, and the show is called Bipolar Music. My whole thing is openly talking about mental health and playing music from all over the world. And I've got a chat room there where I gather together a whole load of people, some people who are neurodivergent, some people who've got mental illnesses, some people who haven't, and just gather together and chat about stuff in the chat room while I'm playing music and talking on the microphone and, answering people's mental health questions.
And presumably that not only helps them, it helps you as well.
Yeah. I've for a very long time, I've been a believer in the power of radio to help people, mainly because when I was getting bullied at school, I used to come home each day and find radio of some kind to listen to. Back in the day, it was pirate radio, where you could text a phone number and get the last 3 digits of your phone number read out and shouted out. And then as things progressed, they started to have chat rooms online, You could use a pseudonym and chat to people and start to be part of a community and start to, have that kind of human interaction without it being imminently potentially dangerous. And so I've always believed in that power to help people and support people in a way that other mediums can't, because they're not deliberately about building community.
Okay.
James,
yes.
Before we end, do you think that this projects you've been speaking of, do you think they helped you get to a good place, or were you in a good place so you could do them?
Good question.
They helped me get to a good place.
Right, that's good.
My experience has always been that you always heal while you are healing. Because of the particular things that damaged my mental health.
Yeah.
The feeling of not being useful, the feeling of not being of any value to other people,
right.
The feeling of not being able to help anyone because I was so helpless in my mind. That process of helping others is the thing that is healing me.
Yeah.
While I am potentially creating opportunities for others to experience healing as well.
And I imagine that, because you've told me a little bit about one or two other things that you get up to now. For example, the art group that you're involved with.
Yeah.
And that's presumably something where you facilitate something for others who are struggling, but at the same time, you are blessed through being part of that.
Yeah, so the art club is great. I love doing that. Rasheen actually got me involved in that, which was really great. She's a vicar in Campbell. And basically for 2 hours on a Monday morning, again 10 a.m. till 12 noon, because I like to keep things simple, I go into the community centre at Tucking Mill and I put some ambient relaxing music on, set up a few tables, get some chairs out, get a couple of boxes of art materials out, and just let people do whatever they're going to do. Create however they want to create, bring their own project, find something to do in the boxes of art materials. And that 2 hour slot on a Monday morning is so relaxing for me, and hopefully for lots of other people as well.
Now, James, I'm conscious that Peter's there said, well, before we finish, so it probably means we've been talking quite a long time. But there's two other things that I'd love to develop, but perhaps we do it as a separate session.
Yeah.
Another day, probably, rather than today.
Cool.
But I'd love to talk to you about the book that you wrote.
Yeah.
Which is called?
Nanook the Bipolar Bear. It's by me, James Osborn.
Nanook the Bipolar Bear.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
It's available for £10 through any local bookshop. And you can also get it on Amazon.
I wasn't supposed to be priming him for this,
yeah.
but anyway, well, we could have another discussion about who it goes through. But anyway,
go through your local bookshop.
and also, just because you love your art and illustrate, I understand that you've also had some exhibitions of art that you've done, so there's a whole story around some other stuff that we haven't even touched on really. Yeah. Peter, anything else you want to ask this guy before we round off for today?
I think we have remarkably a lot in common, me and James.
I think you do in some respects you do. I mean, all lives are different, aren't they?
But it's not every conversation that someone says, I've had a breakdown so many times. Oh yeah, I've had a breakdown so many times. Yeah.
Which is part of the reason for the sharing, because it might help somebody else to say, oh, I'm not the only one.
Those are my favourite types of conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, look, thank you, James. Thanks, Peter, for coming in on it. And I think we ought to do a part 2 at some point in the near future.
Well, I'm up for it.
Okay, thank you.